Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our channel, Paws On Animation.
Today we're covering a graphic novel called Belle of the Ball.
And this is a newer slice of life graphic novel that was released in 2023. And it centers around three high schoolers who end up in an unexpected love triangle.
And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, with notifications for future podcasts and all pause videos.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us again. And if you're not familiar with this book or the author, it was written by Mary Costa. And she's a Luso-Brazilian cartoonist with a bachelor's degree in character animation. And
Didn't know because they're a thing.
Right, well, I guess in Brazil maybe. And she's in love with creating stories and populating with people with a very messy interpersonal drama.
Right.
And this definitely has it.
Right.
And some of her works include not only Belle of the Ball, but also Life of Melody and The Demon of Beau Soleil.
Right. And this book we just happened to see at the library. Well, more specifically, Mama found at the library while we were getting some of the last books in for the year. We always take a look at the shelves to see if there are any new additions added to the manga and graphic novel section.
And it was in actually the manga section, even
right.
though it's a graphic novel.
Right. And because they consider graphic novels and mangas the same thing, just in different countries, they decided to put them together and cover up something. So for here, she ended up finding this and didn't know what it was at first. I guess it popped out because of the bright pink cover. Like the entire book is saturated in pink. So it ended up sticking out to her and she got it. And we didn't know what it was at first until we read the opening jacket. Like, oh, this is a slice of life romance.
Which I never do. I'll just go, oh, and pick it up. And then I don't
like,
know what the heck it is until I get home.
And it's like, why don't you check these things?
I like a little adventure. Like
Danger.
Danger. So, got this, and it's pretty thick. How many pages is it?
Oh, yeah, you're right. It's one big story. It's around a little over 300 pages.
And surprisingly, and I say surprisingly because, again, I knew nothing about it, it's a really fun read. And it has a really nice flow to it. And it's about, as we mentioned, three high schoolers. The main character being Belle Hawkins, who's described as a wallflower. And she ends up in a love triangle with Regina and Chloe. Well, Regina Moreno and Chloe Kitagawa. Who...
And I feel like she picked those names because there are other mean girls in movies and shows.
Yes.
Like Regina is Mean Girls and Chloe's Miraculous, so you can kind of tell what she's watched.
Yes, but she is kind of a wallflower. She wants to stay hidden, and she's even a mascot for the football team with the cheerleaders. And of course, she wears a mascot outfit, and so she generally wears it all the time.
Right. It's like, shouldn't it get hot in there?
Tell me a little more about it.
Okay, so, like we said, this book was released in probably mid to late 2023. So at the time, it was actually a newer book that they got pretty quickly. And in the inside of the jacket on the left, what it describes is a high school senior and notorious wallflower Hawkins has finally worked up the courage to remove her mascot head and ask out her longtime crush, Regina Moreno, not Regina George.
Not Rita Moreno.
Right. Head cheerleader, academic overachiever, and all-around popular girl, of course. Unfortunately for Hawkins, Regina is already dating Chloe Kitagawa, athletic all-star and middling English student, which means not doing so well. Regina sees a perfectly self-serving opportunity in the middle of this triangle. She knows the smitten Hawkins will do anything to get closer to her, including tutoring Chloe free of charge. And while Regina's plan works at first, she doesn't realize that Hawkins and Chloe have their own long-forgotten history. From before Hawkins started doing everything she could to avoid being noticed. Between fraud exams, soccer games, and frequent outings to the mall, which no one does anymore, romance does start to blossom, but not where you might expect.
Yes. And I like that the publisher describes it as a book that reinvigorates satisfying, reliable tropes.
Reinvigorates, huh?
Teen romantic graphic novel. And again, it flows really well. I think that was the favorite part of the book for me, is the flow of it. It reads very easily.
That's
the
true.
characters are very believable. And believe it or not, all three characters are likable, even though they have bully names.
Right.
All three characters
Maybe
are
that
likable.
was the irony of it. After all that, like, oh, they're not so bad. And that is the impression you get in the beginning for one of them, at least for Chloe. And then you see that's just the exterior of her because she's the jock. And yes, there was a little confusion, like you have to really pay attention to the cover, and we mentioned it because the design of Chloe looks like a male character, and you really don't know she's female until you start reading the book and they address her as she and her. So
and
that
maybe
was
the color of the book was a hint.
right. It's entirely pink, yes. And then even the graphic novel itself, every page plus the cover and back is different shades of pink, which is something different. But I wouldn't recommend looking at it too long in case you got color sensitivity, because it can be. Some points it looks fine because they use darker and light. Other times it looks like it's way too saturated. It's like half moon, don't go blind looking at all that pink.
It's alright for me. So now Belle Hawkins again is the main character. All three of them are, but she's the main of the three.
Right.
And when you first see her, you also think she's possibly a guy until someone calls her Belle.
Right.
And she actually was childhood friends with Chloe. Chloe didn't recognize her. And Belle knew who Chloe was.
Right.
So at first, Chloe was kind of a jerk to her because Belle tried to ask out Regina to the prom, not knowing she was dating anyone. So Chloe became territorial and, of course, started being mean to her because she tried to move in on her girlfriend. And then when she looks at her, she doesn't recognize her. She's like, don't you know who I am? And then you find out they were childhood friends. And then they show a flashback. And in that flashback, Belle dressed as a princess. And you can tell that they liked each other as children, than more than just friends. You don't know what's happened until later. And then they really didn't reconnect until now. Yeah. Which was really crazy when you're reading it.
Yeah, it is something like out of an anime, right? Don't you remember me? It's like, I almost remember something from 20 years ago.
And then Chloe's feelings come back that she had for Belle as when they were younger. And Belle threw her off because she had very long hair and she dressed very girly when she was a princess. But she changed her image for high school because she didn't want to stand out. She thought people would make fun of her. She was uncomfortable being herself, so she decided to be someone else.
It's a little ironic, but I guess you could say it's also a change because usually with these types of stories, the thing that makes them stick out is who they want to date and who they have feelings for. And we've seen it done so much, it means nothing now. It's just sort of like on loop now for these types of stories. But what's refreshing is that was the reason why she hid who she was, not because of who she liked, but because of how she dressed. So I could say that was a nice change of pace, where it was what the things they liked was the reason why they felt like they wouldn't fit in, not for who they liked, and they didn't bring up any sort of prejudice or anything like that in the entire story. It's just accepted.
Which is like, also refreshing.
Right. It's like you're on ice. There's no stereotypes, no hate, no prejudice, nothing in this book. It's just treated as if it were a male and female relationship. Nothing is different.
And you just like that. To me, it has that Nozaki-kun vibe. As we mentioned, no bullying, no mean girls, none of that sense.
You had like a smidge of her being protective, but that's it.
But that's because she asked her girlfriend out, and that's the only reason. It wasn't because of anything else. She was pissed because she was moving in on her girlfriend in her mind. So what I also really liked about this book is Regina. Again, she's Chloe's current girlfriend. And Regina is planning everything out. She micro-plans, micromanages.
Which we've seen a billion times now.
What she's going to do, but what Chloe's going to do, and they're going to go to the same school. She even tells Chloe what she's going to study. And it's like, huh? And she knows that she's going to study, and she's applying to Ivy League schools and wants to get accepted and wants Chloe to follow her there. And she's expecting Chloe to get an athletic scholarship.
Yeah.
And you've seen these characters before, and you can tell Chloe kind of goes along with it because she loves her, but she's not comfortable that she's planning everything out for her. Yeah. So the gist of this story is each of them are working through their goals. They're working through their own personal issues. They're working through their feelings for other characters. Yeah. And It has a nice flow, but it does have a rush ending.
Yes,
and I really wish there had been a second volume or the book had been longer.
Right, and that's definitely what I wanted to touch on, because throughout the whole thing, it plays out like a slice of life anime movie, like where you see it's just normal people's lives, beginning and end, which you really like. And yes, that is one thing that stuck out to me. The story flowed well, but it felt like it was taking a while to get to different points. There's a lot of dialogue. It's not like drawn out with a whole page and 4,000 words on one page and you want to throw the book at the wall. It flowed nice. The conversations were easy. They felt realistic. But like you said, the thing that brought out to me was that it took too long. And when it got to the end, it just sort of, oh, here's a relationship, and the problem they kept bringing up, they just kind of halt, and they just show you in pictures the end, and then flash forward the end, and it felt like you built up all this to see the relationship you could see coming, but then you don't see anything else after it. It just kind of tells you that's it.
And it would have been nice to either make the book longer or have a second volume, and 2-volume graphic novels do exist, and to see how that played out, including them going to the prom, including them ending up in college.
Yeah.
You would have liked to have seen that, but you just have to, as you said, see a clip show practically on pages.
Practically out.
It's a photograph showing you what happened.
It's a scrapbook, pretty much.
So that's my only caveat with this book. I would have loved to have seen another volume showing how it played out.
Yeah.
But if you love these type of books, then we definitely recommend Belle of the Ball. It is available on Amazon to purchase. It's $17.99. You can also probably find it at your local library. And we definitely recommend it, not only because it's February, but because it's just really a fun read, regardless of when you choose to read it during the year.
That's true.
So if you know of and or have read Belle of the Ball by Mira, let us know what you think in the comments below.
Right.
And if you haven't, we definitely recommend that you do.
Right. And for me, one extra thing, I guess, would be, is that it does have some bits of comedy in there. Not everything is funny. I mean, there are some ones like, oh, okay, that was humorous. But there is one point in there where Belle is nervous about something and she kind of stutters. It's like, Cora, I meant to baby Ben or something. That, and she keeps mixing up her words, and she asks, you're supposed to be the English tutor, right? Should I call somebody? Oh, no, so. She kept saying random words. He said, okay, 9-1, stop it! That was probably, to me, the funniest bit. Both parts back to back was, to me, the hilarious part. Like, you need some help.
Definitely. So,
if you haven't already, subscribe for updates, weekly videos, your favorite anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Absolutely. We hope you enjoy.
And more books.
Yes, we hope you're enjoying your February. And in case you haven't heard it, happy Valentine's month.
Pretty much, yeah.
And we love you guys.
Yes. So, thank you for watching. I'm Rascal Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a toontastic day.
Peace.